Lee Van Cleef didn't just play villains. He became the personification of cold-blooded frontier justice with firearms most actors couldn't even identify. While Hollywood cowboys fumbled with pretty props, Van Cleef mastered authentic Western iron that professional gunfighters actually carried, transforming a character actor into the most feared gunslinger in cinema history. Hit subscribe right now, because these 11 legendary weapons tell the story of how one man's piercing stare and deadly trigger finger redefined what it meant to be a Western badman. Number 11. Remington, 1858. New Army, Death Rides a Horse, 1967. We have the revolver that reveals Van Cleef's understanding of practical frontier weapons. In Death Rides a Horse, his character Ryan carries the Remington 1858 New Army, a choice that separates professional outlaws from amateur gunfighters. This wasn't random prop selection. It was character building through authentic hardware.
Tell me what you're after.
The Remington 1858 chambers 44 caliber percussion loads, firing a 220 grain round ball at 800 feet per second through its 8-inch barrel, delivering 312 foot-pounds of stopping power. Weighing 2 pounds 11 ounces with a 6-round capacity, this solid-frame revolver provided crucial advantages that smart gunfighters recognized immediately. Here's what most viewers missed. The Remington's solid top strap made it significantly stronger than Colt's open-top designs. When you're an outlaw whose life depends on mechanical reliability, that extra strength means survival. The frame won't bend under repeated firing, and the cylinder alignment stays perfect even after thousands of rounds. Van Cleef's Ryan carries this revolver because he's a professional who's learned that fancy doesn't win gunfights. The Remington could be disassembled and reassembled in under 30 seconds, critical for maintenance on the trail. While Colt users struggled with fragile wedges and loading levers, Remington shooters simply removed one screw. Watch Van Cleef's handling in the film. He doesn't twirl or show off. He draws with practiced economy, fires with mechanical precision, and reholsters with the confidence of a man who knows his weapon won't fail. That's not acting. That's authentic gunfighter mentality translated to screen. Original Remington 1858 revolvers in good condition command $3,000 to $7,000 at auction, while quality reproductions run $600 to $900. The solid frame provided reliability, but speed required different solutions. Number 10. Colt Navy, 1851. The Big Gun Down, 1966. At number 10...
That's him! That's Jonathan Corbett!
Van Cleef's choice of the Colt Navy, 1851, reveals a character who values elegance and precision over raw power. In The Big Gun Down, he plays Jonathan Corbett, a bounty hunter whose refined taste in firearms matches his sophisticated approach to manhunting. The Colt Navy's 36 caliber chambering fires an 80-grain ball at 1,000 feet per second through its 7.5-inch octagonal barrel, delivering 178 foot-pounds of energy. Weighing 2 pounds 10 ounces with a 6-round capacity, this revolver became the preferred sidearm of Confederate cavalry officers and professional gamblers who understood that shot placement beats caliber. The Navy earned its legendary status through documented accuracy. Its lighter recoil allowed faster follow-up shots, while the longer barrel provided superior velocity and precision at extended ranges. Wild Bill Hickok carried twin navies, and that reputation wasn't built on marketing. Van Cleef's Corbett chooses this revolver because he's a hunter who makes calculated shots, not a brawler who relies on overwhelming firepower. The 36 caliber ball might seem light, but it penetrates deeper than heavier, slower projectiles. At 20 yards, the Navy's accuracy advantage was devastating in skilled hands. The film showcases Van Cleef's precise shooting style perfectly. Watch his stance during the confrontation scenes. He doesn't quick draw like a showman. He presents the weapon deliberately, aligns the sights with professional focus, and squeezes the trigger with the control of a trained marksman. That's the difference between Hollywood fantasy and frontier reality. The Colt Navy's elegant brass trigger guard and backstrap weren't just decorative. They resisted corrosion better than steel in harsh climates. a practical advantage that professional frontiersmen recognized immediately. Between 1850 and 1873, Colt produced over 215,000 Navy revolvers. Original examples now sell for $2,000 to $8,000 depending on condition, while reproduction models run $400 to $700. Precision has limits that only rifles can overcome. Number 9. Winchester 1873, Day of Anger, 1967. Number 9 brings us to the rifle that Winchester marketed as the gun that won the West, and Van Cleef's use of it in Day of Anger demonstrates why this lever action became the gold standard of frontier firearms. His character, Frank Talby, carries this weapon because he understands that long-range authority prevents most gunfights before they start.
I had a run-in Denver, and they're looking for me.
The Winchester 1873 chambered in .44-40, Winchester drives a 200-grain bullet at 1,190 feet per second through its 24-inch barrel, delivering 630 foot-pounds of energy. Weighing 9.5 pounds with a 15-round tubular magazine, this lever-action rifle transformed frontier warfare by putting repeating firepower in the hands of settlers, lawmen, and outlaws alike. The model 1873's revolutionary advantage wasn't just capacity. It was the interchangeability of ammunition with the Colt single-action army. A frontiersman could carry one caliber for both rifle and pistol, simplifying logistics when every ounce mattered. This wasn't marketing genius. It was survival science. Van Cleef's Talby uses this rifle to establish dominance through superior range and firepower. In the film's training sequences, watch how he demonstrates the lever action speed. That rhythmic cycling of the action became the soundtrack of Western justice, each metallic click promising swift retribution for those who challenged authority. The 1873's toggle-link action was simpler and stronger than earlier Winchester designs. When you're teaching a young gunfighter the tools of the trade, reliability matters more than innovation. Talby chooses this proven weapon because he's a professional who stakes his life on mechanical perfection. At 100 yards, the .44-40 still delivers over 400 foot-pounds of energy, enough to drop any threat with proper shot placement. The rifle's accuracy at distance gave tactical advantages that handguns simply couldn't match. Control the high ground with a Winchester, and you control the situation. Winchester produced over 720,000 model 1873 rifles between 1873 and 1924. Original examples command $2,000 to $15,000, depending on condition and configuration, while modern reproductions run $900 to $1,400. But rifles require both hands, limiting tactical flexibility. Number 8. Smith & Wesson Schofield Sabata, 1969. At number 8, we have the revolver that smart professionals preferred over the famous Colt, and Van Cleef's selection of the Smith & Wesson Schofield in Sabata reveals his character's tactical sophistication. This wasn't the most famous Western revolver, but it was often the most practical choice for those who understood gunfighting beyond Hollywood myths. The Schofield's .45 Schofield chambering fires a 230-grain bullet at 730 feet per second, delivering 270 foot-pounds of reliable stopping power through barrels ranging from 5 to 7 inches. At 2.5 pounds with a 6-round capacity, this revolver's true genius lay in its top break design. Here's what separated professionals from amateurs. While Colt users fumbled with loading gates and ejector rods under stress, Schofield shooters broke open the action and dumped all 6 spent cases in one motion. Fresh cartridges dropped in, the gun snapped shut, and you were back in the fight. In sustained gunfights, this speed advantage proved fatal to your enemies. The United States Cavalry purchased 8,285 Schofields between 1875 and 1877, and many officers privately purchased additional examples. They understood what Hollywood often missed. Practical beats pretty when lead starts flying. Van Cleef's character in Sabata understands this perfectly. Watch his reload sequences. There's no fumbling, no wasted motion, just professional efficiency that reveals a man who survived through skill and superior equipment. The top break action's simultaneous ejection meant Schofield users could reload in under 10 seconds, half the time required for Colt's loading gate system. The Schofield's shorter cartridge was specifically designed for reliable extraction. The top break mechanism depended on smooth ejection, and the .45 Schofield straight-walled case design guaranteed that under any conditions. This wasn't compromise. It was engineering excellence focused on one purpose: keeping you alive. Original military-marked Schofields fetch $3,000 to $12,000 at auction, while civilian models bring $2,000 to $8,000. Quality reproductions run $900 to $1,400, but sometimes maximum power requires maximum size. Number 7. Colt Walker, The Grand Duel, 1972. Number 7 takes us to the massive Colt Walker, the hand cannon that Van Cleef wields in the Grand Duel to establish absolute physical and psychological dominance. This isn't just a bigger revolver. It's a statement about overwhelming force in the hands of a man who refuses to give opponents any advantage. The Colt Walker's .44 caliber chambering fires a 220-grain bullet at 1,200 feet per second, generating 705 foot-pounds of devastating energy. Weighing 4 pounds 9 ounces with a 6-round capacity and measuring over 15 inches long, this was among the most powerful handguns produced until the 20th century Magnum Revolution. Here's the Walker's shocking truth. Its muzzle energy exceeded many contemporary rifles. When Captain Samuel Walker of the Texas Rangers collaborated with Samuel Colt to design this monster, they created a weapon capable of killing a horse or penetrating multiple adversaries with a single shot. That wasn't marketing hyperbole. That was documented battlefield performance. Van Cleef's character carries twin Walkers, and that choice reveals everything about his psychology. He's not interested in fair fights or sporting chances. He's interested in overwhelming superiority that ends conflicts before they fully develop. The mere sight of these massive revolvers caused many opponents to reconsider their life choices. The Walker's size wasn't entirely advantage. Its weight made quick-draw competitions impractical, and the massive powder charges occasionally caused cylinder failures. But Van Cleef's character isn't a quick-draw artist. He's a professional killer who strikes from prepared positions where the Walker's devastating power eliminates threats permanently. Watch Van Cleef's body language when wielding these monsters. He doesn't struggle with their weight. He presents them with the controlled confidence of a man who's mastered their recoil and understands their psychological impact. When those massive barrels point your direction, you're facing instant death or permanent disability. Between 1846 and 1847, only about 1,000 Walkers were produced, making originals incredibly rare. Museum-quality examples command $25,000 to $100,000, while quality reproductions run $600 to $1,000. Maximum power creates maximum recoil, limiting rapid-fire capability. Before we reveal the top 6 firearms that made Lee Van Cleef a legend, hit that subscribe button if these authentic Western weapons are revealing the truth behind cinema's greatest gunfighter. These aren't Hollywood fantasies. These are the real tools that professionals chose when their lives depended on superior firepower. Number 6. Double-barrel shotgun. Death Rides a Horse, 1967. At number 6, Van Cleef demonstrates that sometimes the situation demands area devastation over precision, and his use of the double-barrel shotgun in Death Rides a Horse showcases the weapon that professional gunfighters feared most at close range. This wasn't elegant or romantic. It was brutally effective frontier justice. The 12-gauge double-barrel fires 1¼ ounces of buckshot at 1,200 feet per second from each barrel, delivering over 2,000 foot-pounds of energy per shot. Weighing 7 to 9 pounds, depending on barrel length, with a 2-round capacity, this weapon transformed any close-quarters confrontation into a one-sided massacre. Here's what makes the double barrel psychologically devastating. Each barrel fires 9.33 caliber balls in a typical buckshot load. At 15 feet, that pattern measures roughly 18 inches across, creating a cone of destruction that eliminates the need for precise aim. point in the general direction of your target. Squeeze both triggers, and the fight ends immediately. Van Cleef's character uses this weapon during close-quarters ambushes, where rifle length creates tactical disadvantages. The short barrels allow quick presentation in tight spaces, while the devastating payload guarantees immediate incapacitation of multiple threats. This isn't sporting. This is survival through overwhelming force. Watch Van Cleef's tactical positioning in these scenes. He doesn't expose himself unnecessarily. He waits in prepared positions where the shotgun's short range becomes advantage rather than limitation. That's professional gunfighter psychology. Control the environment. Choose weapons suited to the situation, and strike from positions of maximum advantage. The double-barrel simultaneous discharge delivered over 4,000 foot-pounds of energy, enough to physically knock grown men backward. But the true advantage was psychological. That thunderous double report announced terminal finality. Opponents who survived the initial blast rarely continued fighting. The film accurately depicts frontier shotgun tactics. These weapons weren't carried openly. They were ambush tools, stagecoach defense, and close-range problem solvers. Van Cleef's character understands this perfectly, deploying the shotgun only when its specific capabilities provide maximum tactical advantage. Original Frontier-era double-barrel shotguns in shootable condition sell for $800 to $3,000 depending on maker and condition. Quality modern reproductions run $400 to $1,000. It's an instrument of cold-blooded assassination. The single-action Army's 45 Colt chambering drives a 255-grain bullet at 860 feet per second through its 7.5-inch barrel, delivering 420 foot-pounds of stopping power. Weighing 2.5 pounds with a 6-round capacity, this revolver demanded deliberate intent from every man who drew it. But what separates Angel Eye's weapon from typical cowboy iron? Watch Van Cleef's presentation in the opening sequence, when he guns down the entire family. The Colt appears in his hand with professional speed, fires with mechanical precision, and disappears back into leather without wasted motion. This is a working tool in the hands of a paid killer. Van Cleef's Angel Eyes represents the dark reflection of frontier justice. While Clint Eastwood's character uses the Colt to survive, and Eli Wallach's uses it opportunistically, Angel Eyes wields it as an instrument of mercenary violence. The weapon is morally neutral. The man's purpose makes it salvation or damnation. The film showcases the Colt's deliberate action perfectly. Angel Eyes must cock the hammer before each shot, forcing conscious decision-making that separates his calculated murders from crimes of passion. Every trigger pull is premeditated. Every death is intentional. The single-action mechanism becomes metaphor for Angel Eye's cold professionalism. Van Cleef's distinctive squint while aiming was an acting choice. It was authentic shooting technique for aligning iron sights in harsh sunlight. That visual became his signature, communicating lethal focus and professional competence. When those eyes narrow, death follows with mechanical certainty. Angel Eye's Colt is well maintained but not fancy. No elaborate engraving, no ivory grips, just functional steel and walnut. This reveals his character perfectly. A working professional who views his weapon as a carpenter views his hammer. It's a tool that does a job, nothing more. Between 1873 and 1941, Colt produced over 357,000 single-action Army revolvers. Original first-generation examples command $5,000 to $50,000, depending on condition and provenance. Quality. Italian-made replicas like those used in the film run $400 to $800, but Angel Eyes needed more than a revolver for complete tactical dominance. Number 2. Winchester 1866 Yellow Boy, for a few dollars more, 1965. Number 2 reveals Van Cleef's Winchester 1866 Yellow Boy as Colonel Mortimer, the rifle that perfectly complements his character's methodical approach to revenge hunting. This brass-framed lever action represents the bridge between muzzle-loading past and cartridge future, and Mortimer's choice demonstrates professional understanding of firepower's evolution. The Model 1866 Chambers 44, Henry rimfire, pushing a 200-grain bullet at 1,125 feet per second through its 24-inch octagonal barrel, creating 560 foot-pounds of frontier justice. Weighing 9¼ pounds with a 15 to 17 round tubular magazine, this lever-action rifle provided repeating devastation that made single-shot opposition obsolete overnight. Here's what made the Yellow Boy revolutionary. It was the first Winchester rifle, improving upon the Henry rifle's exposed magazine tube and awkward loading system. The distinctive brass receiver wasn't just decorative. It provided excellent corrosion resistance in harsh alkali dust and extreme temperatures, critical advantages for professional frontiersmen. Mortimer's Yellow Boy appears in the film's most iconic scenes, including the famous showdown where he demonstrates superior firepower against multiple opponents. The 15-round capacity meant Mortimer could engage extended gunfights without reloading, while his enemies fumbled with single-shot weapons or low-capacity revolvers. Van Cleef's handling showcases authentic lever-action technique. Watch his smooth cycling of the action, the rifle never leaving his shoulder between shots. That rhythmic movement became the soundtrack of frontier dominance, each metallic click chambering another round of inevitable justice. The brass frame gave the Yellow Boy its distinctive appearance and nickname. While steel-framed rifles were stronger, the brass provided natural lubricity that kept the action smooth, even in dusty conditions. This practical advantage separated professional equipment from amateur gear. Mortimer's Yellow Boy is more than firepower. It's psychological warfare. When opponents see 15 rounds of repeating rifle fire, they understand they're facing a professional with superior equipment. That realization often ended conflicts before they fully developed. Exactly Mortimer's preferred outcome. The film accurately depicts the Yellow Boy's role in transitioning the West from muzzle loading to cartridge firearms. Between 1866 and 1898, Winchester produced over 170,000 model 1866 rifles. Original examples in good condition command $8,000 to $30,000, depending on configuration. Quality reproductions run $900 to $1,400, but even the legendary Yellow Boy couldn't match the cultural impact of Van Cleef's most iconic weapon. Number 1. Colt Single Action Army as Angel Eyes, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966. Here stands the firearm that made Lee Van Cleef immortal.
200,000 and go. Where? Here? Here? Cemetery.
Angel Eyes Colt Single Action Army in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly isn't just the most famous villain's gun in cinema history. It's the weapon that transformed a character actor into the personification of frontier evil. This simple revolver in Van Cleef's hands became something transcendent, the physical manifestation of death itself. The Single Action Army's 45 Colt chambering drives a 255-grain bullet at 860 feet per second through its 4 3/4-inch barrel, delivering 420 foot-pounds of stopping power. Weighing 2½ pounds with a 6-round capacity, this revolver with its shorter barrel provided faster presentation while maintaining sufficient accuracy for close to medium range work. But the technical specifications miss the point entirely. Angel Eyes Colt isn't defined by ballistics. It's defined by Van Cleef's eyes. That piercing stare down the barrel communicates something beyond acting, the absolute certainty of death. When Van Cleef's hand moves toward leather, you're not watching entertainment, you're witnessing execution. Here's what Sergio Leone understood that other directors missed. The Colt's single-action mechanism forces deliberate motion. Angel Eyes must cock the hammer before each shot, and Van Cleef uses that mechanical requirement to create unbearable tension. Watch the opening sequence. The hammer click becomes a death knell. The trigger pull isn't reaction, it's calculated murder. Van Cleef's distinctive shooting stance became iconic. Arm extended with mechanical precision, eyes narrowed to slits while aligning the sights. This wasn't Hollywood quick-draw fantasy. This was authentic gunfighter technique, filtered through Leone's operatic vision. The result transcended both to create pure cinema. Angel Eye's relationship with his Colt reveals everything about his character. He maintains the weapon meticulously. He draws with practiced efficiency. He fires with mechanical precision. and he feels absolutely nothing. The gun is a tool. Death is a service. Payment is the only morality that matters. The film's famous three-way showdown showcases the Colt's role perfectly. While Tuco fumbles and Blondie calculates, Angel Eyes simply draws and fires with professional certainty. That he's been tricked into carrying an unloaded weapon doesn't diminish his character. It reveals the only way good defeats evil, through deception, because direct confrontation would be suicide. Van Cleef trained extensively for this role, working with Italian armorers to master authentic draw and presentation techniques. His dedication shows in every frame. The weapon moves like an extension of his body, appearing in his hand with such fluid speed that you almost miss the draw itself. The shorter 4 3/4-inch barrel wasn't random choice. This configuration, sometimes called the artillery model, provided faster draw and better balance for mounted work, while maintaining sufficient accuracy for gunfighting ranges under 25 yards. Angel Eyes chose practical over impressive, exactly right for a working professional. Between 1873 and 1941, Colt produced over 357,000 single-action Army revolvers, but none achieved the legendary status of Van Cleef's Angel Eyes Colt. This simple mass-produced revolver became the most feared weapon in cinema history, simply because of the man who wielded it. Original first-generation Colts in artillery configuration command $8,000 to $25,000, depending on condition. Quality Italian replicas like those used in the film run $400 to $800, but the actual screen-used weapons? Priceless artifacts of cinema history that occasionally appear at specialty auctions for 6 figures. Lee Van Cleef's Western Firearms reveal a truth that Hollywood often forgets. The gun doesn't make the man. The man's purpose transforms steel and lit into either salvation or damnation. Each weapon reflected Van Cleef's genius for communicating character through authentic detail. Van Cleef succeeded where countless actors failed because he understood that authenticity isn't about looking tough. It's about respecting the tools that shaped American history and the men who wielded them with deadly purpose. He didn't just carry these weapons. He became their living embodiment, transforming period firearms into instruments of cinema magic. His characters rarely quick-drew. They didn't need to. Van Cleef's presentation was different, deliberate, professional, absolutely certain. When his hand moved toward leather, the fight was already over. The draw was merely confirmation of fate already sealed. That confidence came from genuine skill with authentic weapons, not Hollywood fakery. From spaghetti westerns to American classics, Van Cleef's commitment to firearms authenticity elevated every production he touched. His legacy isn't just memorable performances, it's the standard he set for how actors should approach period weapons, with respect, training, and understanding that these tools shaped the history we're pretending to portray. Which Van Cleef weapon revealed the most about his character's psychology? Drop your thoughts below and tell us which firearm captured your imagination. Subscribe for more deep dives into the authentic weapons that built Western cinema legends. Because the real stories behind the guns are always more fascinating than the myths. Remember, in the hands of Lee Van Cleef, cold steel became the coldest stare in cinema history,